Give us some of the misconceptions around what psychological safety is and isn't.
Probably the most common misconception, and the one that drives me craziest, is that psychological safety is about being nice. And the reason that one really bugs me is because nice in the corporate world often means I need to be nice to your face and say what I think you want to hear. But then in the hallway or with my colleagues or elsewhere, I'm going to say what I really think, which, by the way, isn't very nice. Yeah. However, that's often what nice means at work. And so psychological safety is most certainly not about being nice. In fact, one could say it's quite the opposite. I mean, not exactly, because it's not about being cruel, but it is about being direct. It's certainly about being and helping others be vulnerable. And another one is it's not the same as job security. Right? If we're trying to create a more direct and open and candid workplace, that is not the same thing as don't worry, you have your job for life. We have to be comfortable and open about the fact that the world is changing faster than ever, and business models change, and customers need change, and sometimes the skills we need change. And so very few of us, I have tenure, but very few of us do have a job for life. And we ought to be, we have to learn how to be comfortable with that.
One of the things I like in your book is and there is a 2x2 matrix in there, which
gotta have it.
You gotta have it. But on the one side, it talks about psychological safety, and on the other, it talks about standards or goals or ambition.
Yes.
And you've basically said psychological safety isn't going to solve everything, and that you need standards and ambition and goals as well.
Right. And I first developed that 2x2 because I was talking about psychological safety, the need for candor, the need to make the environment at work, especially for leaders, managers, to make the environment at work a place where people felt able, to speak up. And talk about misconceptions. One immediate pushback is, are you asking me to sort of dial it back on performance standards? And so that was like, no, not at all. That's not. In fact, I don't see those two things as two ends of the same spectrum. High standards over here, high psychological safety over here. I said, in fact, I see it like this. Yeah. I think as a manager, as a leader, you must pay attention to both of these things. I mean, we should have ambition. We should have goals. We should set very ambitious performance standards for people. And there's a variety of ways we might think about doing that. And we need to create a climate where people really know that their voice is welcome. And if you don't do either one, that's kind of a sad state of affairs, right? I call that the apathy zone. This is where people quit and stay. Yep. They're still getting a paycheck, but that's about it. Yep. But the one that I think a lot of executives worry about, they don't want to create the comfort zone, nor do I. Right? They don't want people coming in, lots of psychological safety, but low ambition. And the one I worry about more, however, is what I call the anxiety zone, where standards are high and clear, but people are terrified of speaking up to their boss, to others. And that, to me, is a very dangerous place for any company or organization to be in where there's risk and uncertainty.
Let's talk about one or two of those, Amy, because I think you've recognised that Volkswagen under PS was one of those, a company I knew quite well, that people would never say anything to upset the CEO. In fact, barely anyone ever met him. He was a total autocrat. How do organizations think that they're in the right zone when they've got high standards, high ambition, but no psychological safety?
Well, I think it's because they have an erroneous theory of management, which is that fear works. Right? And in fact, certainly Winterkorn, who was at the helm, he at the time of Dieselgate, was very clear, and he learned it from his boss, right? And he was very clear that the best way to get what you want is just say, this is what I want, or else. And truly say things like, I know your names, right? Great. That's going to work. If I terrify you enough, you'll come up with a genius invention. I don't think so. Nonetheless, it looks like it's working for a while, right?
Yeah.
Because we have these green car of the year in 2008, Volkswagen. We now know that was fraudulent. To be generous, I imagine that the very top executives did not know that. Right?
Right.
They thought they'd put the stake in the ground. They'd been frightening, and they got what they wanted. It's a vestige. It's a faulty theory of management that fear works. They believe, well, fear motivates. Well, fear does motivate, but it largely motivates hiding.
Yeah. Interesting, because we had Guy Coward